Okay, so I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg being slammed for saying that the Holocaust is not a race and all the stuff that has been following that. I wrote down three things that I've been reflecting on, that I've been thinking about in regards to this, that I wanted to share with you. Hopefully, it can add some value to the quality of your life in some way, get you to think about something in your life, hopefully, help you become a higher, fuller expression of who you're capable of becoming. But before I get into that, guys, if you want to help me get to 1,000 subscribers by June, please can you like and subscribe to my channel? You'd be an absolute legend. So before I get into that, by the way, welcome back again. I hope you're okay. I hope everything in your life is all right. I hope family is all right. I hope you're keeping well. As I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about this situation that's happening with Whoopi Goldberg being slammed for saying saying that the Holocaust was not about race. I wrote down three things that I've been thinking about. Let me share them with you. So the first thing that I wrote down here is that we need to listen to what people say and see between the lines. So I actually understood where Whoopi Goldberg was coming from. And part of the reason why I did this was because, and I come from this place, is that I understood that what she was saying was not specific, but she was generalizing as a whole. She was making a statement which was an oversimplification of a situation in the context of the fact. And the reason why I say this, and it's really why I wanted to say this to you, is because what I've noticed in society and what I've noticed for many of us in life is that many of us, we tend to focus more on the way something is delivered, and we tend to focus more on what is actually said than the context of what is actually happening around us. For example, one of the things that I was thinking about is, from everything that I know about Whoopi Goldberg, from listening to her on multiple talk shows, from the movies that she's done, from what she's achieved in her life, from understanding that if you watch the program which Whoopi Goldberg was on, which is called The View, they essentially have a 4-minute segment for 4 different women or 4 different men or whoever it may be on the show to basically give their point of view. Right? We're not talking about the situation that we're talking about is not like this, similar to like what Joe Rogan has, where he has 3 hours to articulate an idea, to give his point of view. The reality of life is that they have about 4 minutes to actually get their point of view across, which, let's be honest, completely honest, the reality is that it is going to be way out of context. And the thing that you have to think about is that you have to add all of these things into the mix before you start being triggered by what people say. And also, one of the things that you then have to add in is that the way the news works is that the way the news operates on sound bites, right? The way the news works is they want to get your attention. The news is a business. That show is a business, right? And you have to ask yourself, okay, well, what is the shadow intention? Why is the news focusing so much on this? We know that there are tornadoes happening around the world. We know that there's poverty. We know that there's civil wars ravaging the world. So the question that you want to ask yourself is, why has the news editor, all these news editors decided to go and put this news story out? Why are they not focusing on the amount of deaths that are happening with coronavirus, and they're deciding to put their focus on this one narrow area? Why is that, right? And this is what I talk about as putting everything into context, because if you don't put all of this stuff into context, what's going to end up happening is that everything that she said, in fact, everything that a lot of people say online on most platforms, is going to be offensive. Is going to be interpreted in the wrong way, right? And part of the reason why so many of us, we are being offended and we're so easily offended by everything in life is because we never actually look at the whole viewpoint and the whole context of why is this person saying this stuff? What was their research? What was their history? What was their background? Where are they? Why are they saying this? What is their intention, right? Until you get all of that, you then cannot, you're always going to be offended by everything, right? Because, like, for example, if I looked at your life as a person and I went back over the last month and I started let's just say I recorded you for the last month. If I started taking certain things that you've said and only posted them on the internet, you would be seen as a misogynist, a racist, a horrible human being, undisciplined, selfish. Because if I take things out of context in your life, they're gonna seem weird. But if I look at the whole length of the month and I take everything into account, of course you're gonna look to be a better person than you than if I take the sound bites. And so I guess the point that I wanted to share with you, and is something that I would get, maybe I'd ask you to think about in your own life, is do you take the time to actually look at the whole context of what the people are actually saying? Have you, like, in your brain, taken everything that you can possibly take into account before you come up with a conclusion? Or are you just simply reacting to whatever comes at you, right? You see it on the news, it must be true. Hold on a minute. Shouldn't you be saying, why isn't you showing me this? Why not something else? What is their edge here? What are they trying to get out of me, right? You want to think about this kind of stuff, because it's really important. Because otherwise, like, for example, I say this because we're living in a world today which is pretty much globalized, right? You're going to be working with Asians, Indians, Pakistanis, Muslims, people who are on the left, people who are on the right. And the thing is, if you want to connect with people and build friendships and build networks with people, this means you're going to be interacting with people who are oppose you directly all the time. And what I'm saying to you is, if you don't start learning to take things into context and understand why this person is saying this and what their background is and what their story is and why it is that they're saying this and why are they saying it in this way, you're going to be able to basically you're never going to be able to form any kind of relationship, because everybody is going to constantly be out to get you. Everybody is going to be constantly offending you. So it's just something that I was thinking about, and I would just persuade you to think about that in your own life. The second thing that I wrote down here is that sometimes you just have to apologize. You know, I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have saved myself in situations when I've just apologized. The amount of times when I could have been involved in a fight, but I've just said, I'm really sorry. It was my mistake. I didn't actually realize, right? People, I've noticed, don't really understand the power of saying, I'm sorry, right? Admitting that you're wrong, right? Admitting that you made an error in judgment. Like, the amount of times that saves you. Because I think all of us understand, look, everybody can make mistakes. People can say things that maybe they didn't really think through. People can do things that maybe they didn't mean to do, right? None of us are perfect. None of us. And in fact, if you can find me a perfect person, I would love to interview that person, right? And I'm sure a lot of people will make a lot of money if you can find a perfect person. But those people don't exist. And I think there is a power in being vulnerable, because I think when you say you're sorry, basically what it means is number one, you're humbled yourself, but number two, it's like a dog that lies on its belly and exposes itself. You expose your heart. You expose who you are. You say, look, I got it wrong. I thought it was like this, and this is what I believed, but I was wrong. And so the second point that I wanted to articulate to you is, how many times in your life do you say sorry or haven't been saying sorry, which could save you so much aggravation, which actually could bring you closer together? Like in a relationship, if you genuinely are the person who genuinely said, look, I know I said this, but I realize now from your point of view, it didn't come across the way that I wanted to articulate it. Next time I'm going to try to do better. Next time that I get into a situation like this, I'm going to try to articulate my point of view so that it isn't going to come across as offensive, so that it isn't going to I don't want it to come across as if I'm trying to deliberately hurt your feelings. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try to improve an aspect of myself in relation to communication. You would be shocked at how much closer that brings you with your partner. Right? We know that a lot of relationships break up because of that lack of communication. One person wants this or trying to say this or they need this, but they just haven't been able to communicate it to their partner. So that's the second thing that I was thinking about. The last thing that I wrote down here is that after you've been challenged, ask why and reflect. And what essentially I was thinking about is that a lot of making better decisions in life is about stopping and actually examining what we've actually said. And I think that a lot of us in life don't really take the time to stop, to examine, to break down what just happened. Why did it happen? How did it lead up to this? What have we learned about ourselves? Is it the way that we communicate? Is it the way that we're received? Because sometimes we don't even realize that, I meet a lot of people who say that, oh, Kasim, I'm a good person. And I say to them, well, if you were a good and they're like, I'm a really good person, I should be in a relationship, right? But I've been single for ages. And I'm like, well, if you were really as good as what you say you are, you would be in a relationship. Somebody would be trying to get you. But I can tell you from interacting with you, you're highly combative. You are 100% driven by independence and not codependence and not partnership and not teamwork. So the way when I come, I can imagine if somebody was wanting to get into a relationship with you, they wouldn't see you as somebody who is looking to be in a relationship. You are all about independence. You're all about having things your way, right? You talk about how you don't need people. Well, if you don't need people, and people can sense that from you, right? And an element of getting into a relationship is a certain part of you has to want to actually get into a relationship. It's an energy, it's an aura. You can sense it from somebody, right? And so, there's some people a lot of the time who say, I don't know, I'm a really good listener. But actually, if you listen and observe them, they're not really good listeners. They're only good listeners when they're with people who agree with them, right? When they are with people who are the same as them. The moment that they come in contact with anyone who they don't agree with, all of a sudden they're not good listeners. They're not interested in your opinion. They don't want to know. And I recognize that some of us don't even realize this. And this is something for me as Kasim that I've had to look at, because sometimes I may say something like I recently posted something on YouTube where I was talking about a guy, Mason Greenwood, who was convicted, who's been allegedly arrested and has been now released on bail actually due to some allegations relating to violence and sexual assault. And I made a video on that, but there's some of the things that I said on that were not. I didn't basically mention a lot on the tragedy and the sickness of what Mason Greenwood had done. And I spent a lot of time talking about other factors. And the way in which it was portrayed by people is that I didn't care, that I wasn't sympathetic to the victim in this particular case, the woman. And of course, that's not the reality. But then I had to think about myself and say, hold on a minute, Kasim, you should have said something on those lines, right? You should have said about the victim and how sick it was or whatever. But for me, I was trying to have variety, and I was trying to talk about a different angle related to the situation, but that wasn't the way that it was received. And so now I have to try and articulate some of my ideas better and going forward. And it's something that I've had to really reflect on and think about in my own life and in terms of articulating my ideas. And so that's basically what I just persuade you to think about. To think about, is the way in which you're perceived different to the way that you think you're perceived? Do you think, you say that you're a good person, but is that the experience that people have of you? Have you ever thought about that? You say that you are an open book, an open heart, but is that the experience people have of you? Because you don't obviously live in the world alone. You live with other people. So the interaction you have with other people is also important, because you have to collaborate with people. You have to build. You live within a community. You don't live as an individual, as a hermit in the middle of nowhere. Just something for you to think about. So those are the three things that I wanted to share with you. But what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Comment below. Obviously, let's have a conversation. This isn't about me saying that I'm right or wrong. I'm always keen to sort of hear what you think. So comment below. Send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Also, again, if you want to help me get to 1,000 subscribers by June, please can you like and subscribe to my channel? You would be an absolute legend. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon, guys. Bye for now.